Are you seriously considering getting your ham radio technician class license, but you know you first must pass that examination? Then you must watch this video. Not only will I help you walk through the process of getting your FRN number, to finding online or in-person classes, more importantly, I'll help you pass the test. I will share with you my tips, my strategy, and even my notes that I use to pass the test first time around. And we can do it in a much faster way. So if this sounds of interest to you, then let's get started. Hey, this is MJ, call sign KO4TWA, and welcome to another episode of Ham Radio Made Simple. Today's episode is focused on those who are getting their technician ham radio license. Subjects I'll be going over today is the FCC registration process, how to find a class both online and in your area, key resources that are out there that will help you better prepare to take the test. We'll go over to a practice test website and navigate through it. Talk about studying tips, tricks, and insights that have helped me pass all three exams, what you can expect the day of taking the test, and Vanity call sign registration, why you might want to take that after you get your FCC license. Now, a quick review. There are three classifications within ham radio: your technician, your general, and your extra. Each test gets progressively harder. When you successfully pass your examination, the FCC will send you a license that looks like this to your email address. Now, it's important that you first know that you have to register with the FCC and get what is known as an FRN number. There is a short core video that'll explain the process, and I'll point it out to where it is in the registration process. But you have to have this before you can take your exam. Now, your username will be your email address that will be on file with the FCC, so you may want to think about which email address you want to give them. The FCC is going to send you a confirming link to this email address. You must open it, click the link, and this will authenticate the fact that you are who you are. So make sure you check your spam file because it may go there. That's what happened to me the first time around. You're going to want to save this information as well as print it out, because going forward, next test you take, you're going to have to use it, as well as when you are doing the Vanity call sign change. So here's the FCC registration login. And again, this link is listed below in the description. One of the things you're going to want to do is register here, but also here is where the short video link is. So you can just click there, take the tutorial, or pass it completely and just move on to the registration process. At the end of the process, the FCC is going to remind you to go back and check your email account and click the registration link, which will authenticate who you are, and it will complete the process so that you can get your FRN number. So remember, check your email. And again, it may be in spam. So how do you find a class that's in your area? Well, the ARRL obviously is becoming probably your best tool that's out there, but they have a great resource looking at your licensing, education, and training. Just find an amateur radio license class. All you need to do is simply put in the zip code. Don't fill in anything else. Put the zip code in, and it'll show you where the classes are and when they start. Now, there is an advantage to go into an in-person class. I find that there's a much higher success rate with those who have participated in an in-person class. About 25% of those people in there will end up passing both their technician and general at the same time, because it's more interactive. They can get their questions answered, some great teaching, as well as they begin to make friends. And this is important, that when you get your license, you want other people who are in the same position as you, where you can practice your ham radio skills and try out your equipment. So again, it's a great choice, great opportunity. But you can also find classes online. And I am not endorsing these because I've never used them, but I know they've been out there for a while and are considered pretty reputable. If you look at hamclass.net, $99, you can either do live or recorded sessions, and it's perfect then. So if you can't travel, or the classes are too delayed or out of your area, online may be your better option. Another alternative is a company called New England Science Tech. Their costs are about $55 to $65 a class. Upside on them is that when you're done and you're ready to take your test, you can take it online for an extra $15 through them. So It's going to require about, on average, of 12 hours of total time to go through these online courses. Now, there are other study guides that are out there. QRZ offers one. The ARRL store offers another one. Thing to pay attention, because at the time of this recording, we're using this book. But if you notice here, it says these covers the question pool effective from July 1, 2018 to June 30th of 2022. So come July 1st of 2022, if you're watching this, there's a different set of questions and a different book is going to be required for you to take your test. Now, YouTube videos is a great route. That's the way I went. A great one is Ham Radio 2.0. It's a two-part, but these are long series. If you notice here, it's about 2 hours and 34 minutes. But if you fast forward out the introductions, the talking in between the sessions, you can get it down to about an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 45 minutes. And I just broke it up for over a few nights, but excellent resource. Just focus on the class session part. Another one out there that I used is Red Wagon Technology. This is going to be 18 short series parts. Nice thing about this is basically he's directing toward the questions. So you're studying the test more than you're studying the book. So this particular gentleman is phenomenal, and I would recommend if you take the live technicians class from Ham Radio 2.0, that follow up with the Red Wagon Technology, and I think you'll have some great results. Here's the thing that I've found out. I didn't go in with a lot of context, and it made it more difficult, and my learning curve was much longer. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos. Context is everything. If you can go and look at my series, you can skip part 2, but part 1, 3, and 4, it's going to help you when these people are talking about terms such as single sideband, HF, UHF, when they're talking about, for example, a Yagi or a dipole antenna. I had no reference to what that meant. If you watch my videos, I'll show you pictures, point that out. So when they start talking about a lot of this stuff, at least you have, a reference point to start from. So where do you go to take an exam? Well, we're going to go back to the ARRL website, and we're going to go under Licensing, Education, Training, top tab, find an amateur radio license exam session. Just put in the zip code only. It'll show you the different testing centers, dates and times in your area. These are basically sponsored by local ham radio clubs. They could either be on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, and they'll show it to you in a regional area associated with your zip code. You'll find that many of them could be free, or they'll charge you a $15 fee for taking the test. But as far as the FCC today, no charge, but come sometime in 2022, you're looking for a $35 fee for each test. And if you do a Vanity call sign change, they're going to charge you again another $35. So get it in before this, and best thing I could say to do is just keep an eye out for when that price increase is coming. When it comes to online choices for finding it, let's talk about that. When we look at online, we're going to go back to the ARRL, and we're going to go down one, find an online exam. And essentially, you can look for the links on that page. Bottom line is, when you're ready to take the test, if you don't want to wait 2 weeks and you don't want to have to travel farther out of your area to do it, just go online. It's a great option to do it. Again, there's going to be a fee associated with it. These people aren't doing it for free online. Now, my strategy when it comes to taking a test with my notes is I call it kind of like a threefold. The first part is I call it the dictionary definition. And again, this is in my notes of what these terms are, these must-know terms are. So if you look at something like capacitance and inductance, they're very similar in the sense they both store energy, but one's in an electric field, the other's in a magnetic field. So for me, I came up with C and E versus I and M. Capacitance in an electrical field, inductance in a magnetic field. That's how I remember the difference between the two. When it comes to all of these QSO terms, which originated from Morse code, back in the day, which actually don't make sense. They don't really mean what they mean. I don't know what it is, but SO is basically a conversation between two radio amateurs. What I did is say, okay, they're speaking to others. SO, speaking to others. Easy to associate with that. SL means acknowledge receipt, sign on the line to accept the receipt. Again, little tricks that you can do on this. When it comes to the term like volt, make sure that you understand the difference between volt, power, and current, because that can trick you up. It tricked me up a little bit in the beginning. Another technique is when you start to look at, we get into some of these frequencies and stuff. If you look at high frequency, which is I call it the beginning of the alphabet, so it's the beginning of the measurements. It's easy to remember 3 to 30, 30 to 300, 300 to 3 gigahertz. It's just, is the high frequency go first, the very high frequency, ultra high frequency. Remember, it starts with the high frequency, which is the beginning of the alphabet. If you want my notes, I can give it to you in a Word or PDF. It'll save you a lot of time and build off of it. If you do the Word document, add to it, make your own changes to it. But it's something I would recommend. And I can email it to you if you send me an email at my hamradiomadesimple@gmail.com. Next, what I do is basically put together a bunch of words, and I'm looking for on this is basically which ones I have to memorize. APRS, automatic packet reporting, PSK, phase shift keying. RTTY is different now. I'm not telling the definition of RTTY. This is me showing you it's set to 10 meters. That is an answer. And I will build off of this. And there's multiple answers to RTTY. I just keep adding them onto here. So when I'm doing my review, I look up RTTY and I'm looking up the different answers that are on the test when a question about RTTY comes up. A cathode, it's marked with the letter C. That is an answer in one of the questions in there. So it's easy for me to put that down. Again, you may do it a different way, but this is the way I was able to come together and now go phase 2, go from dictionary definition to more answer-specific definition associated with the word. Next I do is what is known as my notes page, and I basically cut and paste questions I miss often, or I know I will miss. I will put them in. And again, I just show the right answer. You don't include all the options. Just again, you too much clutter in your brain. Just keep the right answer. But what in general terms is standing wave ratio? This answer, a measure of how well a load is matched to transmission line. Eventually, you just want to remove this and just put load match. So I'm memorizing standing wave ratio, load match. Not all of this, just those two words. And I put it down, I put it in red, and when I review this, I'm looking for these words in an answer. And if I see it, I put it down. Again, this was huge for me in being able to all of a sudden in my practice exams score much higher and start passing the test more often. What is the voltage across two components in parallel with a voltage source? Now, look at these. These are very tricky because they're very similar, asking different things. In which type of circuit is a voltage the same across all components? In which type of circuit is a current the same through all components? What happens to the current at the junction of two components in series? What happens to current at the junction of two components in parallel? These are the ones I missed the most. I put those down and I put them all together. Don't have them spread out somewhere else in your notes. Group them together in a group. And that way you can look at it and say, oh, I came up with VAP, which is basically voltage across parallel. And you VAP the same. And again, VAP has parallel at the end. So this is another way of asking the question. So VAP comes back into play, parallel, answer is parallel in here. And same thing, you just go right on down. You put these in, again, single word, try to get it down so you're not looking at the full answer, just the most important words within the answer, you can associate it to the questions. So some practice tips here. If anything, remember this slide more than anything else. Learn the correct answer first. What you don't want to do is just jump right in and try to take the practice exam with 640 questions. Your mind is going to be flooded with chaos after that. If you can discipline yourself and do what I'm telling you, you will get through this faster and you'll have a higher outcome rate, guaranteed. So learn the correct answer first. Be patient. Next is master one section at a time. And when we get into the practice test site, I'll take you through the process of setting up the filters and preferences so that you can basically get it down to a section at a time and build off of each section. There are 10 sections with multiple questions, like maybe 37 questions per section on average, whatever. But master one at a time, build off of it, get your confidence up, and again, reduce clutter of information in your brain. If you don't know what they're talking about, look it up. I would often look up something just to help me to better understand, remember, whether it be a picture, a concept, whatever. So don't hesitate to take the time and look it up. And always add to your notes, documents, information that you're learning. If you looked it up, put a note down about it. Now, your notes document is a living document. So this is stuff you must know, stuff You keep forgetting, you're going to add, and you're going to review your notes before taking any practice test. Toward the end, it may take you 15 minutes to go through your pages of notes, but I guarantee you, when you take that practice test, you're going to pass. And the day of the test, I would go through my notes 1 or 2 times, head out, relax, and not a problem passing any of my examinations that I did. So let's talk about some strategy on test questions. What does an S meter measure? Well, let's look at it. First, it's saying an S. So let's look for an S in the answer, and it's asking about a meter. So received signal strength, signal. Hey, there's an S, signal. Believe it or not, I was surprised after taking all 3 examinations, the times that a question, if I would have read it right and took my time and looked at it, they led me to an answer or led me to at least 2 questions that could be a possible answer to it. So don't race through the question. Look for these clues within the question. Next would be, for example, approximately how long is each side of a driven element of a quad antenna? What does quad or quadrangle mean? It means 4. So the answer has to have a 4 in it. It's either 3/4 or a quarter. For me, since you're starting in the beginning, you're going to say, okay, 1 is the first part of 4. It's before 4, so I'm going to remember a quarter. The 3/4, just so that you know, there's no 3/4 wavelength antenna that I'm aware of that's out there today. But yeah, I didn't know that at the time. But I just looked at it, okay, 4 with 1 going before the 4. So the first 4, that's the answer. I guarantee you will not miss these 2 questions on the test by just what I showed you. So when is it permissible to communicate with the amateur stations in countries outside the areas administered by the Federal Communications Commission? This one basically one that makes the most sense, and it happens to be the longest. When the contact is with amateurs in any country except those whose administrations have notified the ITU that they object to such communications. I mean, it's logical. It just makes sense, and it happened to be the longest answer. So again, I found that to be the case more than not. Let's go over a few more. What is the approximate open circuit voltage of a fully illuminated silicon photovoltaic cell? Let's look at this. Photo. What kind of photo? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 letters in this means it's 0.5. It's the only 5 that is in here. Again, I guarantee you won't miss that question either. What is the QRP operation? Remember I said reduced power. So low power, that's the answer. What communication system sometimes uses the internet to transfer messages? Well, you're going to know and have to know that Aries is part of a ham radio community that partakes in emergency services. Skywarn is never an answer in anything. You see Skywarn, just throw it away. It's not an answer to any question ever. But however, we get down to 2 now. WinLink. Well, Windows linking to the internet. Hey, is that the answer? Yes. In what direction or directions does an electrical loop have nulls in the radiation pattern? Nulls means voids. In other words, it's not sending a RF signal in that direction. Well, if you think of like a hula hoop, if you're inside the hula hoop, you're either going one side or the other. And it's similar to what is happening with an RF signal. Or if you're blowing bubbles through a loop, it's going one side or the other. It does not go broadside to the loop. It never does. Same principle. The RF signals, it does not go broadside, nor do you. You stay in the loop and it goes in and out in those directions. Again, which of the following causes oppositions to the flow of alternating current in an inductor? I think of in an inductor, an air duct. So I have an alternating, which means back and forth. So going through an air duct, all of a sudden it meets some resistance. It reacts to whatever's at the end of that air duct. It could be the vent cover. It's going to react to it. So it's going to go one way. It's going to turn around and react. It's going to go back the other way. It's going to react. So anything within the inductor, alternating current, is reacting, thus changing back and forth. Best way to remember it. How do you join a contact between 2 stations using the Pactor protocol? Again, here's the clue. Pactor. What terms have, where do you see the word Pactor in these answers? 2 of them. Cross out these 2. So now, which is the difference between these 2? I just remember Pactor is not possible because it's not possible to understand what a Pactor is. So it's not possible. So basically, another way that you can look at this, get the answer correct. Again, you will not forget that answer. Which of the following is a disadvantage of using wind as a primary source power for what? Emergency station. Emergency means it has to be going 24/7. It can't have, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. So if you're looking at wind and it's not blowing, it means it's not producing power. Obvious answer right here is that if there's no wind, there's no power, which means you can't use it in an emergency station. Again, a lot of this stuff, just look at the question correctly. What does the Q signal and QSL, remember? Sign on the bottom line and give me the receipt. I acknowledge receipt. Again, very simple. So here are just several ways of looking at different ways to approach this. Again, you may do it a different way, but read the question, get it down to 2 possible answers, and then use common sense. Go with your first gut, too. So if you're looking at 2 and your first instinct is, let's say, D versus B, go with your first instinct. You'll find that you're probably right 70% of the time, more or less. Let's go over to the website that we'll be doing our practice test, our flashcards, as well as our question pool. Let's get started. Make sure you go to hamexam.org. Don't go to any of the other sites that are out there, and I'll tell you why. This particular site has the exact questions with the exact answers that you're going to be taking on your technician examination. So, best place. Plus, they got great tools. First thing you want to do is register. And in my case, since I already am registered, I'm just going to log in. And by doing this, you're going to be able to maintain your stats, your filters, and your preferences. And every time you log in, it's going to keep it and track it, which is critical. So first thing first is basically, let's go under technician, and we want to make sure we have our filters correct. So when I set my filters, these filters apply to only the flashcards, not the examination questions. So just be aware of that. You may have all of these things toggled when you first get it. You want to untoggle all of them except the top section is what you want. You must update the filters button. Otherwise, it will not save your changes. Next is go to preferences. I particularly like to be able to have when we do the examination, that is, use weighted questions and randomized question order. Check those off, save preference. Next, what we're going to do is go to our question pool. And under our question pool, you want to make sure you check off everything that you see here. And by doing that, it's only going to give you the correct answer. And that's the key. You want to see the correct answer. You want to memorize the correct answer so that you're not trying to sift through all possible answers, especially in the beginning. You really need to memorize what is the correct answer. And again, there's memory tricks. This one, which of the following is a safety hazard of a 12-volt storage battery? Fire and explosion. If I just remember that, I can remember the answer to the question. I don't have to remember shorting the terminals can cause fires, burns, or explosions. Or you can just do shorting the terminals, either one. But just don't try to memorize all the answer, just a key section within the answer. Take all of your choices are correct ones, group them together in your notes. That way it's a lot easier to sort through those. Because if you're going to miss a question, it's usually you're going to either choose all the choices are correct when it's not, or you're going to miss it when you should have, because some of these questions you may say, oh yeah, I can remember it causes involuntary muscle contractions. Yes, that's correct, but you're not sure about the other ones. This way, again, it's going to assure you to be able to get these correct. Again, most challenging ones are when they have all of these choices are correct within that answer. Now, go down here and you'll see that there's 37 questions in this first section. Do not go into the next section, which you see right in here. That's the next section. We're going to do this one first. Once you're familiar going through these 37 questions several times, you say, okay, I'm pretty good with it. Let's see how good your memory is. Technician, flashcards. At this point now, I can actually look at this and say, this is what I'm looking for. Which is the answer in here? Okay, we know shorting terminals can cause fires, burns, or an explosion. So we're going to go ahead and click that, hit submit. And yes, we got it. Now you look over here at our stats, viewed 1, correct 1, wrong. This is really nice to be able to see when you start hitting more of these being correct than you're getting wrong. And you go right on to the next question here. So once you're done going through this several times and you're getting these correct, what we want to do is go back to my filters. We're going to go select filters. I'm going to undo that one section. I'm going to toggle all Update filters. Remember that? I'm going to go to pool of questions. I am now going to highlight these, and I'm going to skip this first section because I did that. And now I'm focusing on the next section. This is the one we're working on next, right down in here. So again, study these different questions. Remember the answers correctly. And next, again, rinse and repeat. Go right back up when you're all done with that and do your flashcards, which you see right in here. When you've gone through all 10 sections and you've done this, then you're ready to do the practice examination. The practice examination is 35 questions, just like your test, same thing. And you're going to go through and answer all of the 35 questions. And next, at the end, you just have to hit a grade exam. It'll get you your score. It'll tell you whether or not you passed. So this is where you want to basically get to the point where you're passing 31 of the 35 questions on a regular basis. Do not be discouraged if you're hitting in the beginning 23 to 25 and you're just underneath the passing score, because what's going to happen is you're going to start failing. Then you're going to do some failing, some passing. Then you're going to do more passing than less failing. And then you're going to do consistently passing. Take your test at that point. So what should you expect to bring with you when you go in to take your technician's class examination? Well, you're going to have to bring a photo ID, and it will be validated by 3 VECs. You're going to have 2 pencils, in case one breaks, obviously. Sometimes you'll have to bring in your FRN number. That's the FCC registration number. Other times you won't have to if the examiner requests you send it in prior to taking the test in order to enroll for the examination. Then you most likely won't have to bring it. But if they don't, then you'll have to have it on test day. No cell phones on. You have to turn it off. No calculators with programmable memory. Can't use that. They will have other calculators, I call it the dumbed down ones. Or if you do have a programmable memory, they may go in and actually just check the memory to see if anything is stored within it. They're going to give you a test booklet, an answer sheet, and scratch paper where you can work out your formulas and notes in the beginning. Now, what I have done on things that were most difficult for me, as soon as I got in and I was able to have access to that scratch paper and they said you can begin, I just started putting down what was in my mind so I can refer back to it later on. And that would be my formulas, my bands, the different ones that were out there, so that I would know, for example, that 70 centimeter is 420 megahertz, for example, to 450 megahertz. Those are the type of things I wrote down right away. You can take a retest if you get within a few questions of passing, because one test may be harder than the other. So if they ask and say, do you want to try to take the test over again? Absolutely do it. Now, there are rules. Once a test starts, you can't leave your seat. Otherwise, you have to turn in your examination. Grading, like I mentioned, is going to be done by 3 VECs, as well as check your ID. It usually takes about 10 minutes when you turn it in before your test results are known, and you'll know before you leave. If you pass, you can try the general exam, the next one up. So that's up to you. I recommend it if you do pass. So who knows, you may be able to pass it. If not, you'll know what questions are and where you need to study for the next test. So if you pass, you need to sign a completion document. I've seen people leave before that document is presented to them. Expect your FCC license within 24 to 48 hours. And again, check your spam filter. Now, vanity call signs is not as bad as it sounds. It's basically saying FCC sent me a call sign I really don't like. I was sent KO4 PYT, and it's just P and T was too close together. I didn't like it. I changed mine to KO4 TWA, Tango Whiskey Alpha. So how do you do this? Well, you got to log into the FCC license account that we talked about earlier. Remember, that's why you have to save all this stuff. And then what you do is you go over, once you're logged in, go over to Request Vanity Call Sign. Next, you're going to see this screen pop up. Leave it as it is, no and no. Select Continue. Make sure you check off Primary Station Preference List, and then hit Select. Now, you're going to be given up to like 25 different call signs that you can put in. I strongly recommend you put at least 5 to 6 in. I did this just with the first time, found out someone had already taken it by the time they went around to check it. It was available when I put the request in, but by the time they reviewed it, it was taken. So put 5 or 6 in and then hit the select button to continue. Now, how do you check? Well, the FCC has a site as well as QRZ, the ARRL. They all have places where you can check the call signs that are out there, but those lag behind the FCC one. Could be 2 or 3 days. And that's why it's important. All you have to do is just go to the one section, and again, the link is below. Put in here the call sign, nothing else, just the call sign that you think you would want, and do a search on it. And you can see the search button up here. Hit the search button. And what you're going to get is no matches found. So this is great. Here happens to be the one, NC for OSU, North Carolina for Oklahoma State University, Ohio State University, whatever. But you can put it in. Now, this 4 here applies to the district that you're in. In the Southeast, you're in 4. In different parts of the country, it could be 0, 1, like the Northeast is 0, and there's other areas all over the place. But you're going to have to keep whatever district that you're living in now. But you can change these 5 right over here, but you have to leave this one in play. Now, quick summary, you have to get that FRN number, which we went through earlier, which is your FCC number, and make sure you save it, both from a printed copy and bookmarked, etc. We went over study help. There are free YouTube and there are local online classes, and some are going to cost you some money. Make sure you have a plan. Have study notes, tips and tricks, memory things that you can do, and practice, practice, practice. The other thing is the Vanity call sign. Get it right away. As soon as you get it, if you don't like it, change it, because people will begin to know your handle by that call sign, and you don't want them to have to say, okay, hey, listen, I'm no longer that, I'm this now. And especially the other thing, what I did, nice thing as I did, is I immediately set up a Gmail account with my call sign right up front. I would recommend you do something like that too. It doesn't have to be through Gmail, but pretty simple, saved in the cloud. So get it done right away, and always make sure you find a seasoned ham radio operator to help you get up and set up. So upcoming videos, the next one I'm going to be doing is on clubs and nets. So once you get your license, that's the very first thing you want to do is jump onto these clubs and nets, start to meet people and practice your skills. I'm going to focus on prepping. There's a large people out there that are now looking at ham radio for prepping. I'm going to talk more about what options they have for prepping, especially when it comes to setting it up, cross repeaters, etc. Then deeper dives are going to go into programming repeaters, more onto antennas, using Echolink, All-Star, and reducing noise. So if you liked these videos, please hit the subscribe button. It allows me to be able to stay on, as well as put me up higher in the algorithms for people to find it, as well as the like button. And I greatly appreciate that. So this is MJ, KO4 TWA with Ham Radio Made Simple, out.